You are going to learn how to overcome the trap that many fall into, the reincarnation trap. If you don't know what that is, you can watch my video about it here. Out of all of the scary and confusing concepts that spirituality has to offer, the reincarnation trap, or the false light trap, is by far the most disturbing. So, I've created this video as an additional resource to help you avoid the false light in all the many different forms that it takes in this world and in the worlds beyond. But before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you first and foremost for being part of this channel. I'm able to grow because you are liking and you're sharing and you're subscribing and you're commenting. So thank you. This is just the beginning. I've got big plans for all of us. So if you enjoy my content, I have one simple favor to ask you, which is to hit the follow button and to like this video now. You were on your way home when you died. It was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonetheless. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was so utterly shattered you were better off, trust me. And that's when you met me. What? What's happened? You asked. Where am I? You died, I said matter-of-factly. No point in mincing words. There was a truck, and it was skidding. Yep, I said. I died? Yep, but don't feel bad about it. Everyone dies, I said. You looked around and there was nothingness, just you and me. What is this place? You asked. Is this the afterlife? More or less, I said. Are you God? You asked. Yup, I replied. I'm God. My kids, my wife, you said. What about them? Will they be all right? That's what I like to see, I said. You just died and your main concern is for your family. That's good stuff right there. You looked at me with fascination. To you, I didn't look like God. I just looked like some man, or possibly a woman. Some vague authority figure, maybe. More of a grammar school teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry, I said. They'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but she will secretly be relieved. To be fair, your marriage was falling apart. If it's any consolation, she'll feel very guilty for feeling relieved. Oh, you said. So, what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? Neither, I said. You'll be reincarnated. Ah, you said. So the Hindus were right. All religions are right, in their own way, I said. Walk with me. You followed along as we strode through the void. Where are we going? Nowhere in particular, I said. Just a nice walk while we talk. So, what's the point then? You asked. When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? A baby. So, all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter. Not so, I said. You have within you the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. I stopped walking and took you by the shoulders. Your soul is more magnificent, beautiful, and gigantic than you could possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and when you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences it had. You've been a human for the last 48 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out for long enough, you'd start remembering everything. But there's no point in doing that between each life. How many times have I been reincarnated then? Oh, lots. Lots and lots. And in lots of different lives, I said. This time around, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. Wait, what? You stammered. You're sending me back in time. Well, I guess technically, time as you know it only exists in your universe. Things are different from where I come from. Where you come from, you said. Oh, sure, I explained. I come from somewhere else. And there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but honestly, you wouldn't understand. Oh, you said, a little let down. But wait, if I get reincarnated to other places in time, I could have interacted with myself at some point. Sure, it happens all the time. And with both lives only aware of their own lifespan, you don't even know that it's happening. So, what's the point of it all? Seriously, I asked. Seriously? You're asking me for the meaning of life. Isn't that a little stereotypical? Well, it's a reasonable question, you persisted. I looked you in the eye. The meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe, is for you to mature. You mean mankind? You want us to mature? No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me? What about everyone else? There is no one else, I said. In this universe, there's just you and me. You stared blankly at me. But all the people on Earth, all you, different incarnations of you. Wait, I'm everyone. Now you're getting it, I said, with a congratulatory slap on the back. I'm every human being who ever lived, or will ever live. Yes, I'm Abraham Lincoln, and you're John Wilkes Booth too, I added. I'm Hitler, you said, appalled, and you're the millions he killed. I'm Jesus, and you're everyone who followed him. You fell silent. Every time you victimize someone, I said, you are victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was, or will be, experienced by you. You thought for a long time. Why, you asked me. Why do all this? Because someday you'll become like me. Because that's what you are. You're one of my kind. You're my child. Whoa. You mean I'm a god? No, not yet. You're a fetus. You're still growing. Once you've lived every human life throughout all time, you will have grown enough to be born. So, the whole universe, you said, it's just an egg, I answered. Now it's time for you to move on to your next life. And I sent you on your way. In that story, we have the main character, who is referred to as you in the second person, and God, who is me in the first person. You is a 48-year-old man who dies in a car crash. After death, you's soul meets God, the narrator, who says that you have been reincarnated many times before, and that you're next due to be reincarnated as a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. Before your next life, God explains that the entire universe was created as an egg for your soul, who is also all of humanity's soul. And after you have lived every human life ever, you will be ready to be reborn as God. So, the reason God created the universe was for the main character, you. Andy Weir, the writer, has said that the egg doesn't reflect his own personal beliefs or his thoughts on the nature of reality. And it definitely doesn't reflect mine. This story is set in the fourth dimension, which is the first dimension the soul encounters as it passes on. And the fourth dimension has the largest bandwidth out of all of the dimensions because it contains the lower astral planes. And in the lower astral, there are a lot of different belief systems that all congregate there. It's where all of the dark Masonic and religious themes from our dimension, the third dimension, gets projected to. This is because the third dimension exists within the fourth dimension. So, just as you are a higher being watching me in a 2D form on a flat video screen or computer screen or TV screen that exists in this third dimension, there are higher beings above us up in the fourth dimension that are looking down and are observing us here in the third. And up in the 4D realm, there's a strong theme that's being played out. And that theme is light versus darkness. And the darkness has created something called the false light. It's called false light because it's not actually emanating from God or the source. It's coming from the lower astral, which is a battleground for good versus evil. Now, the reason why this battle is happening is because they are not operating in the peak experience, or what I call prime reality. Meaning that they think that they are in the real world, but they are still a part of this universe, which is nothing more than a sophisticated dream. So, it's a higher layer of this universe, but remember, higher dimensional does not necessarily equal better. In the fourth dimension, these entities, be they lower astral angels or lower astral demons, have severed their consciousness from God into extreme polarities, meaning that they can't understand nuance like most people. And because of this, they are battling in this never-ending war, like most people. And these lower dimensional beings need our consciousness to fuel this war. And they do this through things like creating religious extremism or through engineering our broken political systems, through economics. Pretty much any system that exists here on Earth is designed with the sole purpose of draining our energy. So, if we, not you, but most of humanity, choose to stay in that unaware state, NPC if you will, they will operate as little batteries in the matrix that generate energy for the fourth dimension to power their never-ending war. The false light beings also incarnate into our reality as the people who uphold these institutions, and they manifest up in the astral planes as well. So the higher we raise our consciousness, whether through our own practices here on Earth or when our vibration naturally raises as we leave the body in the death process, we have to be more careful and recognize these beings in their many different forms. Because, like the egg story, even though it sounds very nice, do we really need to reincarnate here for all eternity or almost all of eternity? Life can be wonderful and I love life, don't get me wrong, but personally, I have reached my limit. So, going back to the egg theory story, you is stuck in the cycle being reincarnation, because he hasn't cultivated spiritual sovereignty yet, or he doesn't have the discernment to ascend and get out of here. We know this because he is letting another separate entity tell him what he needs to do. So first, you're going to be greeted by something. This thing will appear as saintly. It will have the signature hallmark of ego and worship, and it will exude a militant form of hierarchy. And now, there's a natural and completely aligned form of hierarchy. However, this form that you'll be met with is the form that our military industrial complex is modeled from. It will be very extreme. This is all, in my opinion, by the way. It's not been proved, obviously. But this false light that's operating within the fourth dimension needs this extreme sense of authority because they think that that is the way to reach God. They're trying to go higher and higher, or what they perceive to be higher and higher, when what they're really doing is just creating a labyrinth for themselves, or a maze. Bringing it back down to reality, a practical example of this is these corporate career paths that we're all encouraged to take through school and college, etc. We're promised a better life as we get into these high paying positions, but that's rarely the case. It's just an endless ladder that doesn't lead to life being any easier. In the same way, being in a higher dimension or being something that is of a higher dimension doesn't necessarily mean that it's any wiser than you. It is very possible for those of us who are awakening to raise our consciousness above that of these entities. And these beings are aware of that. And at that point, the false light will try to morph into a fake identity. So, be that a fake Jesus or a different fake deity or a fake family member. Now, that doesn't mean that there is not a real Jesus or that you'll never meet your loved ones on the other side. But understand, especially if you're resonating with what I'm saying, you'll be able to see through what this entity is trying to do. It will be like someone putting on a Halloween costume of Jesus. Only a very small child would maybe believe that it is the real Jesus. In the same way, only the most naive souls will believe that this entity that they're meeting is real. And those souls who do believe that this entity is real are definitely, in my opinion, not ready for what is beyond this earth. So those are the souls of those who are emotionally rock bottom. And while it's sad for them and it's sad for someone to be in that state, the fact is that they're easy to prey on because they have very little standards and they have very low discernment. But like all of us, they need a connection to a higher power. And because of that, fake Jesus or fake Buddha or fake whoever will prey on that weakness. We will also, like in the egg story, have the same forces trying to trick those of us who have a higher vibration. So we will be met by something more elaborate, and they will have a more elaborate story or a more elaborate reason as to why we should return back into this matrix. And what makes those entities harder to spot is because we have so many new age, misguided spiritual teachers that are subconsciously possessed by these false light. And these teachers, they think that they're doing the right thing through communicating with the dead through mediumship or the Dolores Cannons or the Bashars of the world. Basically, anyone who's going around teaching that, oh, the earth is a school and blah, 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 and is basically trying to minimize or gaslight your own suffering or your own desire to get out of here. And I'm not saying that Bashar or Dolores Cannon or any of those people are bad, but it's about using your own discernment. Don't be fooled or forced when you are in the great beyond to re-experience anything negative if you don't want to. It really is that simple. So back here on Earth, we have the false light, which also manifests in this New Age movement. So I'm talking about the astrology, the crystals, the sage smudging, all of that surface level stuff that usually costs us a lot of money. And many people see through that, but they somehow go running back to the organized religions of the world. Now, religion, and the New Age for that matter, definitely has some good points, don't get me wrong. But to become masters, we need to take off our spiritual training wheels. We need to be a little bit smarter and realize that both ideologies, religion and the New Age, have the potential to hold us back spiritually. It's literally controlled opposition. And what I mean by this is the New Age is mostly just a mix of very different belief systems that are naturally coming up within this age of Aquarius. And when you put them together, they don't add up. And most of the time, they don't even agree with one another. And I get that in my comments all the time. People are accusing me of being a New Age person, blah, blah, blah. Those people that comment are usually the most closed-minded people that you could ever come across, and they have no idea what's really going on in the world around them. Instead, what they do have is this contempt for the contemporary and anything that is new and new ideas. And they also have this delusional romanticization of the Abrahamic religions as being pure and untouched, which is also just as problematic. So with the New Age booming at the moment, especially in the TikTok generation, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas that are growing up now as well, the potential of it being dangerous is there for sure. But like everything, like I've said over and over again, it requires our own gnosis, our own personal intuition and discernment. The false light has a strong theme of worshipping what's on the outside. Now, that's fine if you're inherently selfish or if you're a narcissist, cluster B person, whatever you want to call it. But for us, the healers of the world, the powers that be, they don't want us to reach spiritual sovereignty. So spiritual sovereignty doesn't mean that you're an island onto yourself, like the narcissist goes around thinking. Spiritual sovereignty means that you are a balanced individual who can think for yourself. So it means that you are your own authority. And if you aren't in your own authority, by default, you're in a state of spiritual amnesia. And the megaverse doesn't want us to be in that state. They need us to be strong and in alignment with natural law. So we've learned about this extra trap that happens when our frequency raises. As they say, new levels, new devils. And when we pass on, the false light will try and scare us because fear is the fastest and most effective way to lower our vibration. So if we choose to engage with this false light, it's going to try and gaslight us in the life review. They're going to tell us that our very existence was harming everyone and everything around us, and that we need to come back and try again in a new life. Or they're going to try and tell us that we are some sort of inverted satanic being and we were living a satanic life. Or they're going to try and gaslight us into believing that we're on a cosmic journey and that we are always at the very beginning of a evolutionary journey of the soul. When in actuality, if you're even having this conversation with this elaborate godlike being or angel or relative, then what that really means is that you've mastered life on earth, which is no easy task. So you should be proud of yourself, not guilty, not scared. You shouldn't listen to anything that tells you that you're not advanced enough. Back on Earth again. In the false light, everything is inverted. So, what is divine to you and I is profane to them. And part of their profanity is creating synthetic timelines to misguide humanity. These timelines are designed to make us believe that we are evolving and progressing, when in reality, we are being led further and further away from our true power. And they're doing this mainly through technology. Now, technology in of itself is neutral. It can be great, but it also can be very harmful. And the false light wants us to align with this synthetic, harmful agenda. And if we aren't able to discern an organic and genuine force of any concept from its synthetic imitation, then we're going to confuse the two, and we're going to continue to recycle back down into this very low false light realm. Now, in the third dimension, we have the theme of the false light being played out at the largest scale through our institutions, as I've mentioned before, specifically through what is known as controlled opposition. And controlled opposition is exactly what the name says. It's when the puppet masters control the opposition. So both sides of any dichotomy serve the same master. So let's use the example of the divine feminine and the divine masculine in the media, right? So we have these so-called popular female empowerment figures in the media who are desperately trying to portray divine feminine energy, and who do a terrible job at it for anyone who has true discernment. These musical figures, they have a big platform, and they are controlled by those who are from the fractured light that's being projected down from the fourth dimension. These people produce catchy music, and they sample songs from the 60s and the 70s sometimes, and this naturally softens our defenses, and people from all generations identify with them because they love their music. It's very nostalgic, yet it's still contemporary, so they appeal to both the older generation and the younger generation. And as a feminine person, they feign female empowerment through their songs, and they sing songs that are supposedly uplifting women, but they are not the true divine feminine. They are usually dressed obscenely, and they make music about hating men, and they're part of a very dark industry, and they create music that is blatantly promoting demons. And it's very obvious that they want all those who are listening to stay locked into the root chakra, shall we say. Yeah, very demonic lyrics, but it's marketed as being artistic. And this person that I have in mind is just one of many. So these female popular singers are posed as empowering women, and to anyone with eyes and ears, it's obvious that these people are not empowering anyone. It all plays into the same agenda, and they are simply false light projections, controlled opposition that are there to divide men and women, to keep the masculine and feminine apart. So for people like us who have raised our consciousness outside of these institutions, the institutions being the media, religion, politics, and so on, we can clearly see these imposter energies. There's also the buffoon-like divine masculine that's very popular among young men too. These people, with all of their followings online, they are just here to challenge our discernment. You can get sucked into all the glamour of going to these concerts and watching these arguably charming, confident men on YouTube or wherever they post. But as spiritual sovereigns, we know what the divine feminine really is. We know what the divine masculine really is. So we're not going to blindly consume things that are operating on that lower bandwidth of energy. So I know all of this can be slightly worrying, but if you're still here and you're resonating, you are definitely on the right path. You have one of the bravest souls in the cosmos. And if you have any concerns, stick with me. You'll learn how to transmute the densest and most confusing energies into the highest form of light. I hope this video will help you elevate above the false light. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for more lessons on spiritual self-mastery. I love you, and I will see you in the next one.